Okay, so let me welcome you to this, our ninth film in our little series Pattern of the Month. And now it's December, and there are no salmon to be caught. You can go on the coast and catch some sea trout. That's the closest we get this time of the year. But it's a really good time for fly tying, I think. The winter time is when you fill up your boxes for the coming season. And today I'm going to start by talking a little bit about fly sizes. I get a lot of questions on how we judge sizes of our flies. And as I said, I'm obsessed with salmon flies. I'm just picking out an old Follows box here, and I'm going to show you some of the really big old classic flies. And if you look at these flies, this is like a 10-0 feather wing. It was considered to be a really big fly. If I compare the size of this with the size of flies we tie today, this is like almost medium, or it's a big fly, but it's not that huge that it used to be. Of course, the big singles were a bit dangerous to cast. And it's the same if I go over and look at the box with classic gut-eyed doubled hooked flies in smaller sizes. Even those today will maybe not be here, small little double jock Scott, fantastic fly. They will not be considered to be that small. So today I think we fish a broader size of flies. I have an old Mikael here, Mikael Samurai, it's maybe 20 centimeters. And we have the tiny little hitch flies or micro tubes, which are smaller than the smallest flies commonly used back in the old days. And when it comes to flies, the question I get is, how do we judge the fly? And if you look at the old flies, the hooked flies, they were all measured on hook size, 8-0. But the different hook designs made an 8-0 could be 3-4 centimeters longer than this. They were long shanks, and they were different kind of hooks that didn't do the measurement really well. And when it comes to it's the same with hooks today, by the way, but when it comes to the modern tube flies, I never judged the fly by the length of the tube. We started doing this in a 2-inch, back in the British tradition, inches, or a 5 centimeter fly. The tubing was 5 centimeters. This is how it all started. But this is ridiculous. The modern way of doing things, we use smaller tubes for bigger flies. So the measurement on the fly is always centimeters, or inches if you prefer, but what we measure is the length of the fly, from the longest strand to the head of the fly, or the cone. I always use cones, as you might know. So the tube is maybe half the size of the fly, and the reason I try to make the tube this short is that I want to have on a salmon fly, I want to have my hook in the center of the fly. The fish will grab it from the side, not from behind, and you will hook the fly better. The fly will swim better. It will be a much better fishing fly if you try to aim to get the hook into the center. And now, finally, we have some of our tools on the market. One we're still waiting for is the little tube cutter. And the good thing with the tube cutter is that you can measure the tube on how long you want it. And let's say I do a 2 centimeter one here. Cuts real sharp too. A 2 centimeter tube, a 2 centimeter tube will not be a 2 centimeter fly. It will be 4 at least. or 5 or 6, depending on where you want to have the hook. So a little bit about sizing, and I hope I answered a few of the questions from you guys mailing and asking me about this. And this is when I talk about sizes here, I always talk about from the head to the longest strand. Okay, so let's see if we can start tying. So those of you who have followed me know that I have a history as a guide, and I guided on some of the most famous rivers, and among those the Laerdal. I was fortunate to meet Ray Brooks, the man behind the Sunray, and guided with Alf Olsen, one of the very famous flight tyers, and famous for the long-winged Sunray shadow kind of fly. Today I'm going to tie another one of those. I'm going to tie a Samurai, and I'm going to tie a Zebra Samurai. It's one of the newer ones, but it's a fly that's showed to be really, really good. And it's tied by the Samurai tradition. It should be, I say tradition, it's fairly new. It's been out, what, 10 years? But it's one of my designs that caught most fish, so maybe it'll be part of the tradition. Anyway, I'm gonna tie this fly now. Too much talking. I'm fortunate now to tell you that some of our tools are here. They are now, you can now buy the scissors and the needles on our web. And as you've seen me use them, I really like them. I think they're fantastic tools, so I hope you will like them too. Okay, the Zebra Samurai. Zebra is the black and white. This is why it's called the Zebra. And I'm going to use the white tubing, and I'm going to use the medium and the extra small. And I start by cutting it in the tool, and I'm going to do this about 2.5 centimeters. So I'll cut a 2 centimeter, and I start by cutting a little bit of an edge on the medium. When I cut the extra small, I do it most of the time with my scissors, so I can get a pointed little tip there, which makes it easier for me to put the cone on afterwards. I'm gonna tie with our 12-0 black thread, and I start by putting the thread on the extra small and move the thread up to secure the joint between the two, so the medium can hold the extra small. I then walk back with the thread, and I'm gonna use a Mirage, and I tie in the Mirage underneath, and when I use a black thread on the white, I make sure that my thread is not under the Mirage, because when it gets wet, the thread will be seen through. And then I just tie this back, leaving about 4 to 6 mil, and I turn it the other way around, so I double it, and this way I don't get any thread under the Mirage. Tie in underneath and cut it off, and when I cut, I try not to cut too close, because there shouldn't be a risk, but there's always a little risk that something will move a little bit, and if I cut it too close, it might slip and and be destroyed. Okay, I'll go on with our braid, and I'm going to use now the Diamond Pearl Holobraid, and I tie it in underneath, move the thread And then I make sure when I tie this in, so I really cover up all the thread. And doubling this, so I let the body grow. So I get the really nicely tapered tinsel kind of body. Tie it in, make sure this is now done longer than the actual part of the fly will be, because I want to have the dubbing to go back and cover up a little bit of this. It makes the fly stronger, and it makes the thread be protected in a better way. Okay, and I go on to the dubbing, and the thing here I have to think, because the thing with the samurai design is that some of the dubbing will be in front of the wing, meaning I have to make sure I have enough space to put in some dubbing, then the wing, and then dubbing again before I go down to the extra small. I don't want to have too much of the fly on the extra small tubing. Okay, and I dub it, and I always do the same. I never use wax. You know, I said it before, wax melts on about 50 Celsius, and the fly will end up in the car on a sunny day, and the wax will go away and the dubbing will go away. So I put on some of this and I back down the dubbing over the tinsel a bit. Always do a little bit at a time here. Normally when I tie flies for you in these films, I do really big flies, and it's just because it's easier for you to see. Samurais are most of the time big, but now I'm gonna do you like a medium size samurai. Okay, and the brush, you see the brush has now turned into silver here, meaning this is the steel one. This is the one that you can buy from us, and I said it's the meanest brush there is, and it really picks out those fibers. And I brush this, and I brush it down on the sides like this, so I get a fairly flat top. Hold back, look at the fibers. If the fibers are, if I have some that are really too long here, the good thing with the Glitz is that they're really long fibers, but I take some of them away so I don't get it to mix where I'm gonna have my hook, because then it will start to tangle. Okay, so zebra, I'm gonna do 3 wings here, and the thing with the samurai is that it's made, the design is made to be a fast swimmer, meaning I want this to be tied on the top of the tube, not down on the side so much. I don't want to have a too broad profile. I want a fairly slim profile, meaning I will take away all the underfur, getting a straight hair here. So the straighter hair tied in on top will get a slimmer fly. And when I do the white here, it's to get a little bit extra contrast. I don't want too much. I just want this to be very slim. And I put it in, make sure it's long enough to go well behind the hook. Tie it in with a few strands, make sure it's on the top, and I can take my fingers like this and press up the hair and pull it up so it's on top. And I cut it off. Standing a little bit up, but it will come down. Then I take a straight hair. I'm gonna use this, that's called, it's almost monkey, meaning it's a kind of goat hair. And the thing with it is that what you want is that you want it to be straight. And what I do here is that I make sure that I take away the shortest fibers here. use my brush, as I always do, to brush through the fibers and untangle everything. If I have some very long fibers here, it's one that's too long, but I want the wing to be like that. And when I tie this in, I tie it in on top. And it's going to be a long slim profile. And the way to get that is to make sure you get all the material on top of the tube, not coming down on the side. Does it look good? Yeah, I think it looks good. I can wet my fingers a little bit and just take this down when I pull it and see how my taper looks. And then I cut this off, and I can lift it a little bit and cut it off. Hold it on top, secure a couple of more fibers, and then I'm gonna do on the zebra, I'm gonna do a couple of little longer straight strands on top of this. And these don't need to be as long as the black. And they need to be very, very few. Once again, this is too many. This is to get the contrast. Black and white and silver and black are the best contrast. Make sure this is tapered and tie it in on top. And here you get the zebra design with the white, black and white, with the black hair being the longest. Feel it, look at it, make sure it's what you want before you keep on going. It's as I say, it's much better to redo than to end up with a box full of flies you don't want to fish. So I'm gonna put on 2 jungle cocks here, and I can also tell you that we have come quite far with our own jungle cock substitute, and I hope, I'm gonna be careful now, I've been talking about the tools for a month before they are really out, but I hope they will be out in the first part of next year, during probably during February, I think. I take the jungle cock and I form it over my thumbnail, and our jungle cocks coming will be pre-curved, I can tell you that. I'm not going to tell you too much about it, but I start by tying in the side on my side, and I make sure the jungle cock is about as long as the tube. And tie it in. Oops, this guy didn't really want to be there. If it's twisting, I use my thumbnail to just adjust it a little bit, and it's actually easier to do on a fly where you have the wing going down on the side. When the tubing is wider than the wing is, it's more difficult to get the jungle cock to sit the way you want it to. Okay, form it, curve it. Take away the soft part, make sure it's as long as the one on my side, and tie it in. Is this good? I think it's good. I move the thread up a little bit. And now, the good thing here is that I will also use the dubbing to press this down a bit. Look at this, so it's the way I want it to. Okay, so I do some dubbing again. Take the glitz, do a little bit at a time. Backing down, holding down and backing down over the wing and the jungle cock. And you can see this is the reason I really needed to have a bit of space here. Otherwise I will come too far out on the extras. Gonna put on a little bit more dubbing. And the thing with dubbing, when you're gonna brush it really hard, is that it needs to look overdressed. If it doesn't look overdressed, it will for sure be too little dubbing when you brush it out. Okay, so done. Now I take my fingers and I cover up the jungle cock in the wing and I brush this. And if you've done it right, you can see how mean this brush is. It just picks up those fibers. And one of the ideas with dubbing this so hard and brushing this out is that the dubbing will help create a drop form. Even if I want to have a long profile, I want a drop form, and it will help doing that. And it also will make a fly that's really, really translucent. It's a simple design, but it's good to think about what you do to get it, to get the fly as good as possible. Now I'm gonna put on some hackles, and I'm gonna be very careful with hackles. I'm not putting a lot of hackles onto the samurais because I don't want them to be too bulky in the front. So I strip off a soft hackle and I turn it, and I'm gonna use maybe 2 centimeters of this feather, and I hold it back like this. Use support of my fingers, create a little triangle. Good with the sharp scissor. And I tie it in underneath. And also here, don't move the thread too much to the sides. These hackles, most of the time I tie them in with only with my bare fingers, and I double by pulling back the part I'm tying in, putting a few turns. I think I do 2 or 3 turns. Make sure to have the turns not only doubled but close to each other, and tie it in. Moving over the tension in the thread and then securing. This is how I try to do with the thread all the time. Stretch the thread, which is what holds the material. Do a couple of turns, don't let go of the bobbin. Get ready and secure. And cut off. Okay, so this looks good, I think. Got a nice little hackle. It will help getting some motion to the fly, but it will not get it too bulky. These are very, very soft, and they will slim down quite a bit when they get wet. Okay, so now I'm gonna do like I did, same thing I did on the fly last month. I'm gonna put on a teal hackle. And if you love classics, like I love those old god-eyed flies and love tying them, it's nice to add some of the classic look to the modern, more effective fishing fly. So what I do is I strip this, and I strip off one side and make sure I don't have too much. I'm gonna have just a little bit of teal, and I will tie it in as a hackle, and I will only need 2 or maximum 3 turns. And when I take away one side of the feather, it means that it's gonna be few strands. And I tie it in. If this is long, I can work this by my hands. If not, I can use our little plier here. And the good thing with the plier is also, first of all, it's a spring one, but it's got a little bit of rubber here, so you don't have to be afraid of pulling off small feathers, and then it's swiveling too. But I'll do this now by hand here, and I just take this, and it's easy. I don't need to double. It's just putting these turns close to each other, getting a little bit of teal on here, and tie it in. And you can see also that the white striped feather, the teal feather, will help to get this contrast. This fly is built on contrast, black and white, black and white, and black and white. And it's neat and good looking, I think. And first I did this, I didn't know it was going to be such an effective fly, but it's a super effective fishing fly. If it is the contrast or if it's this long slim silhouette, it's hard to say, but it's a really, really effective fly. Okay, I'm gonna now put on a cone, and I'm using my turbos, and I use a tungsten turbo, and I'm gonna use it in a color called rainbow. And the good thing with these are that they are all different. You can pick one that is very light, or you can pick one that is quite blue, or one that is more silver, or you can just decide which one you want. On a fly this size, what is it, 8 centimeters, I would normally use an extra small 6mm cone to create a 6 centimeter long turbulent stream, to create a fly that will be about 7 millimeters wide. But on the summer ice, most of the time I prefer to use the micros. The micro is only 4 millimeters, meaning I get a slimmer fly. And when it comes to fly design, I think size is very, very important, of course, when you pick your fly, but also design and also the silhouette, the shape of the fly. And since I want to have those long profile, slim profile flies, I use a small cone here. You support just a little bit of glue. Press down the cone and turn it like this. If I do that, I will spread the glue that's in front of here. And I turn it down and spread it. Make sure it's tight. And I will take away the thread. Take the fly out of the vise. And I cut it. And I leave about 2 millimeters, 2.5. Today I had really fancy flower lighter, and I melt this. A little bit at a time, let the fits tubing come down, hold the cone, and leave a hole. Simple fly design. The Zebra Samurai. This turned out nice. See, the longest strands are here, so maybe I would have to judge this being a 10 centimeter fly, not 8 as I said. But it's a fly that's been in my box now, what, 3 or 4 years, and it's been giving me quite a few good fish every year, and I have them big, little bulkier, and I have them down to 2 or 3 centimeters. Here I had a small one, and now the small ones I do them on the BTT, the brass turbo tube. And the good thing here is that I want this fly to be really light. It's a fly I want to fish most of the time near the surface, and the BTT allows me to do this, and I can use just the bare white tube. This was a little too long, but as a body here. So not the pattern for the smallest ones, but for the biggest flies, and down to what the old classics would say would be a medium size fly of maybe 2-3 centimeters. Okay, and also this month we've done you a pack of materials to tie the Zebra Samurai, and I hope that you will like it. It's an easy fly to tie, and but it's a really good fly to have in your box. Among the samurais, it's the D Samurai, the Zebra, and the green that gives me most fish. And those of you who don't tie or want some extra, we have our fly packs too, where you can get 6 flies, and you can subscribe to both of those and get every pattern every month, or a new pattern every month in your mailbox. I hope you enjoyed this, even though it's a simple fly, but I think it's a beautiful fly. Actually, I like the Zebra Samurai, I like the Zebra concept. Next month I'm gonna do something completely different. It's gonna be long ways from an easy fly to tie, and it's gonna be a lot of materials, and it's gonna be fun fly to tie, but pretty tricky. So I hope we will have this to you around New Year's. It's gonna be a little tricky next month because we have Christmas and New Year's, but hopefully we can have it with you actually the days right before New Year's Eve. So I don't know if I should wish you a Merry Christmas. Feels crazy this way this long before, but thank you for watching, and I hope you will tie them, and I hope you will fish them, and I hope you're gonna catch a lot of fish on them. So stay strong, tie on.